today we're going to be changing the fuel filter. Hopefully that's the trick. That's why I'm losing power. It sounds like a common symptom that that I'm experiencing. So that being said, we're going to walk through what it takes to install a fuel filter on a 2005 or 2006 Jeep Liberty common rail diesel. So stand by. Okay, so step one, just step in your cab and figure out what mileage you're at, and I'll explain why here in a second. Okay, step two, disconnect the positive battery terminal cable. Anything with a computer on a diesel, since this has the computer brains, it's just good practice to unhook your positive battery terminal. Some people say you can do the negative, which you can, but you run the risk of something else grounding out and completing the circuit. So I always do the positive, and I usually just let it hang up next to the battery where it's not going to hit anything metal. The battery's obviously a plastic case, but yeah, this is what you want to do. Okay, so here's the new fuel filter. I got mine from idparts.com. It's a man filter, made in Germany. These are European-based motors, so I like buying European-based parts for that reason. So this is why we got the mileage from our odometer. So if you remember, we were at 174,355, and we write it on the filter because, as I understand it, you want to change these about every 25,000 miles. So if you forgot when you changed the filter, hopefully we can just see it on this sucker. So I'm probably going to write it on more than one side, just because I don't know how when I screw this in. If this is at the back towards the firewall, obviously I won't be able to see it. So I'm going to write it in probably two more spots. Okay, so here is the fuel filter itself. You can see the assembly. Now there are two schools of thought. At the bottom of it is a water and fuel sensor to help set off whenever water might make its way into fuel. Some people say you can get to that from below the vehicle, and then some people will tell you you're better off just unbolting these things, and you can pull this whole assembly up, and it's easier to remove that sensor. I'm going to try to do it from below, but we'll see what works better here. Alright, after studying it, I could reach the sensor below, but I fear it's got one of these clip pins on it that I would probably thrash trying to remove it without, it's kind of blindly, I would have to remove it. So I think I'm going to be better off, and the cord actually ran up, so that tells me if I pull the assembly up, I'll have more slack as opposed to down below trying to pull it down, maybe running the risk of pulling a wire or whatever. I also think not only is it the clip sensor that I have to pull out, but I think I have to unscrew like the male end from the filter and put it on the new one. So I think this is going to, for me, be better well served that I take off the two bolts and lift the assembly out. Now, however, I think it's going to make more sense for me to remove these clips and stuff first before I pull that out, and then we'll do the water and fuel sensor last. So we got a 1/4 inch here. Again, I know hose clamps can be several different sizes, so maybe yours is not. Mine's 1/4 inch here. And we got a 7mm down here. Alright, so they were obviously fuel lines, right? So you'll want to have some rags handy after you get those hoses off. Then just move on to these sensors, clips, and we'll just remember our blue one is on the right. I suspect the two sensors, as most automotive manufacturers do, are two completely different sizes, so there's probably not going to be the risk of confusing which goes where, but we'll remember just in case the blue is on the right. Yep, and it looks like they are two different sizes. So now we'll just take off the assembly and we'll pull it up and we'll get to that water and fuel sensor. Okay, yeah, 1/2 inch socket here that felt a little tight, so I started wondering if maybe it was the metric equivalent, but it fit just right. So it looks like we can just thread this off. No need to remove that sensor. So thread this off. You can see we're getting a lot of feel here. Alright, so this is turning into a disaster. Folks, you can learn some lessons from me, it appears. You saw, hopefully, all that fuel gushing out. Yeah, let me go get some sort of draining canister. Alright, so based on what you just witnessed, you can imagine why it now makes sense that you're better off pulling the whole assembly out, as this much fuel was still in the fuel filter, and that would have been dumping on your face from down below. So I guess I'm glad I went the route I did. Again, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I'll leave that up for you guys to decide, but at this point, again, more spillage, okay, on my workbench. I better close my drawer here. I guess this is good though, right? You're learning lessons to avoid for me. Alright, so new filter side by side, and it appears, so we've got appears the O-ring here has come out with the top part. Looks like we have our own here on the new one, but just something to keep in mind as you're doing it, just make sure that the new filter is going to have its own set of ring seals and whatnot, so we can leave this aside. It's interesting, obviously two different brands of filters here, so this one's a little smaller in diameter. Not sure if I should be concerned or not, but you also see we've got 6 holes here versus 4, so that's kind of interesting. But this was the right part, so anyway, we'll just thread this guy back on. You can see these seals are the same size, so that, you know, makes me believe that it's not a big deal. Probably fine, although I just forgot here, before we get all the way on, of course they're giving me the warning signs. I need to oil the seals, so let me do that real fast. Alright. Now, as I've got diesel all over my hands, I'm realizing I'm happy I probably marked down the mileage beforehand, because permanent marker might not adhere very well to the diesel surface. And then we will remove this guy so we can put that sensor back on, and we'll hook that up first. And then everything, let's focus here. We'll do the water to fuel sensor first, and again, let's check for O-rings and stuff. One came off here. We'll check to see if that sensor has one as well, and we'll do the water and fuel sensor first, and then we'll just reinstall everything like we took it off. So we'll call this the second to last step, and that is we've basically got to pressurize the system again. You saw all that fuel that came out of the old one, so we basically have to get that much fuel into this thing or at least that's what I think. I may be wrong on that. So to do so, it's just like bleeding a brake system, which, I'll be honest, I haven't done too many of those in my time. But there's a little bleeder valve here that uses a 7/16 inch wrench here. So we'll just give it kind of one turn, and then kind of two turns. So over here, this little pump, this little guy, is going to help us. You got to keep pumping this thing until we get fuel coming out, which I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, you can't. So hold on a second. Oh, there we go. We got fuel coming out. So let's close this thing back up. So this part of the assembly is a little button that you pump. So once we got fuel coming out of the bleeder valve, now we want to pump it till we feel resistance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's starting to get a little harder now. So we're sort of in a rinse and repeat mode where we got to get this thing kind of pressurized again, and then we're going to go back to the bleeder valve, which you can't see the bleeder valve now, and doing the same thing. So we got to keep doing this until we get the air out of the fuel. Okay, really honestly for me, by my third cycle, once you cut open the bleeder valve, I mean, it was just a really good constant shot. You'll know, it'll be pretty easy to distinguish the right amount. You also, I was picking up a significant amount of pressure when you had after we closed that back up, like after like 2 pumps, like I don't even think I can get halfway down anymore. So anyway, that should be good. We're gonna take it for a test drive, and make sure this all went as planned. But first, like where we started, let's get this terminal back on, and then we'll go for a test drive. Okay, so we're about to go on this test drive, and I think what makes sense to me anyway is we're going to do the glow plug action. We're going to let the system try to prime and pump itself a little bit, and I'm going to cycle through that maybe two more times. Kind of let the natural engine pumping action do its trick. Here we go. So far so good. I think they tell you if you have air in your system, it'll stall in your fuel system. So it sounds like it's running pretty smooth actually right now. So that's a really good sign. Oh, one last thing, one request from you guys. If you've watched and you made it this far, and along the way if you've seen me do some sort of blunder that maybe put somebody else's future safety and well-being in jeopardy, please, instead of commenting and attacking me for doing something wrong, please just explain what that is for the betterment of anybody else watching. And just look, if you leave a comment like that, just make sure it's geared towards helping out the next person and not throttling me, because this was the first one I've ever done. So I'm up to learning new things. So if there's something I could have done to help myself, I'd like to know it. And obviously, I want to help everybody else out there as well. So please take that approach in the comments. But until next time, peace out.